onto the matter at hand. We're here to sort of celebrate, if you like, an incredible piece of work that's been produced by two super people. So it's a Key Stage 1 Teachers Resource Pack launch event, as you can see, made in collaboration between Laura Chepner from Primary Veducation and the wonderful author of Vivi The Supervegan, Tina Newman. So to help us celebrate, we've got some little chats, some wonderful guests coming up. I should probably introduce myself first, though, for those of you who don't know me. My name's Jim. I'm the host of a podcast called The Bloody Vegans Podcast. There's a shameless little plug in the top left of your screen. Do subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And I'm lucky enough, actually, and this is how I met Laura and Tina, to have interviewed both parties on the podcast in previous episodes, quite early on, actually, and it's been just amazing, sort of watching their kind of journeys from afar and admiring really the incredible work that they've done to support the sort of wider vegan community. So I'll start off just with a huge sort of thank you to both of them, which will be the first of many throughout this evening. On to some of our guests. What's the lineup look like for tonight? So we're going to start off with a little chat with Laura herself. Excited to hear all about this teacher's resource pack, the inspiration for it, etc. And then we're going to have a chat with Tina, the author of Vivi The Supervegan. We're going to find out a little bit more from her perspective, how she got involved with the project, etc. We then, I'm delighted to say, joined by Mark Henderson, also known as the Vegan Mooncat. Many of you will know Mark, I'm sure. If you don't, you should definitely subscribe to his YouTube channel, etc. And definitely check out Mark's work. And then I'm delighted to say we're also joined by Marissa from Veducation, which is wonderful too. Absolute honour to have Marissa with us. And then we're going to round up things with a bit of a Q&A as well. I think we're going to try and do in some kind of format a giveaway as well, which we'll try and navigate towards the end, but we'll get there when we get there. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and we'll get a little bit more informal, shall we say, because no one wants to see tons of slides, do we? So we're going to kick off with a little chat with Laura, actually. So welcome, Laura. How are you?
Hello, I'm great, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm wonderful, thanks. It's been a while since we chatted in this kind of setting, so I'm delighted to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me along to do this. It's an absolute honour, I must say.
Oh, it's great to have you as part of our journey. It really is. We really admire what you do. I'm speaking on behalf of Tina. We're a we tonight, Tina. Tina and I, we all do. We all really appreciate the work you do in the vegan community, and happy to be back on the podcast and doing this. And thank you very much indeed.
Oh no, thank you. So yeah, let's get into it, shall we? So tell me a little bit about the project. How did you get started with it? And for those who don't know, what exactly is a Key Stage 1 Teachers Resource Pack? So I'm sure some people listening to this sort of after the fact might not know.
Yeah, so I work as a vegan inclusion education consultant for schools. So I basically work with staff within schools, helping them to see the perspective from the vegan child, and steer them away from using topics or language that might upset or offend the vegan child. And that's basically what I do all day, every day, is just try and make our schools and our education system in this country a little bit more vegan friendly, because currently, as I'm sure you're all aware, it is not. Far from that. And so when Tina came out with this book, I was absolutely blown away, because when I'd been into schools and I'd recommended to them that they used vegan literature, The only book at the time when I started was the selection of books that Ruby Roth had written. Now, she's absolutely sensational and I love her, but her books weren't that easy to write a curriculum about. There's very hard-hitting truths in there, but they're not necessarily stories. So when Vivi the Supervegan came out, it was just like, woo! This is a story that teachers can read to children, and there's a hero, and there's story, there's substance also, so they can have some really deep conversations, but also they can learn skills through that. And so I straight away got in touch with Tina, we became friends, and then I realized that with her first book, I wrote a program of work that teachers could use in class, then they'd probably be more inclined to bring the book in, because it takes a lot of work, having been a teacher in my previous life, to create a volume of work that can be used every day for a full term from scratch. So teachers tend to use the same books over and over again because there's lots of resources already available. And who wants to invent the wheel when you've got a job list that's as long as your arm? So I basically created this pack so that teachers didn't have to. So I'm so grateful for Tina for inventing Vivi, and I'm really glad to support it in my work as well.
And what's the, I imagine you've probably taken this to a couple of teachers that you've got good relationships with. Have you had some positive feedback initially? Is that sort of something you've been able to get?
Well, it's only we've sold 2 so far. It's a very, very, it's pittance really to buy, and you can buy it as a bundle with the book. But the 2 teachers who have bought it, that Tina has worked with, have just said that it's a really good unit. I mean, I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but they've said that it's just really useful. Because what I've done is I've made sure, in fact, if I can share screen, if I'm technologically okay with this.
Go for it.
I can show you basically. So here's an example. Let me share this. So let's say, for example, the children are learning about sentence openers. So there's always a picture of Vivi there, and there's sentences about the book that they can use. But what I've done with most of the sheets, let me just see if that's one of those, is that I've done it so that the different children who have different abilities in the class have a chance to work on the same piece. It's called differentiation. So for a child who is more able and who's really bright and loves to write, then they've got an opportunity to do the same work as a child who may be struggling for whatever reason. So that's also something that in the teaching world is really important, because Ofsted, who come in and tell you whether or not you're good at what you're doing or not as a teacher, will look to see if every single child in that class has an opportunity to learn. And so, for example, this one here is I'm learning how to retell a story in my own words. So the teacher will have read the story, and then there's that sheet there. And then for another child who can't write just yet, they can put the pictures in order, and so on and so forth. So that a child who loves to write or is really visual can tell it in a story arc, and so on and so forth. So what I've done is I've covered every single one of the year 1, so that's children between the ages of kind of 5 and 6, all of the objectives that every teacher needs to cover. So this one is retelling stories. I've fit that in so that the teachers have no excuse. They basically, can use the book like that. And so that's basically what I've been working on and what the teachers are can have.
Forgive my naivety, but I'll ask this question anyway. So obviously, like, this is an incredible resource for teachers to help them in terms of actually delivering a curriculum, helping children to learn, ultimately, fundamentally. But obviously there's this wonderful kind of double edge to it, which it's going to open up all these wonderful conversations that are about, inclusivity and thinking about some different perspectives, etc. And, is that something that typically is built into these kind of teachers resource packs for other books that you're aware of, or is this quite unique to this particular one because of the subject matter of the book?
No, so teachers, especially in English language classes, always will use a book as a muse to teach key skills through. So, for example, The Hungry Caterpillar is a really popular book, and a teacher might, during one half term, be learning about, they want to teach them about the life cycle. So they kind of marry the hungry caterpillar and the life cycle of the butterfly, and they'll do lots of work. They'll kind of set, perhaps one activity might be with the hungry caterpillar. Let's change what they eat on a daily basis, from the fruits and vegetables to something else, and that'll get the children to use their imaginations. And so books are a really, really good way to get them to kind of learn those key skills about, how to write letters. Perhaps we should write a letter to the hungry caterpillar and tell him not to be so hungry, or, how to tell a story. Perhaps we should maybe incorporate some other characters. So what about the not so hungry bumblebee? And so that's how a teacher uses a book to do a whole unit of work. And so The Hungry Caterpillar, for example, is a really popular book. That's why it was the first one that sprung to mind. And there's a million resources out there, which is why teachers navigate towards it. But if they're doing one, for example, where they need a superhero, where they think they've got a class full of boys or girls who really love superheroes, and they want to find a book that will fit in with that, and they're not quite sure, Vivi the Supervegan is the perfect opportunity for that. See, the thing with the curriculum in England is that they have to teach certain skills, teachers do, but they can choose how they teach it. So this just opens up an opportunity for them to use this book, basically. And the great thing about the fact that Tina has written a series is that I'm now currently in the middle of writing a year 2 curriculum for the second book. And when she releases the third one, I'll be able to write another curriculum for that. So teachers have the continuity going through, and then they're more likely to buy the whole kit and caboodle. But it's the first time really that a book has come to light that is perfect for schooling kids. And it's just really great that Tina let me take it apart and create these resources. It really is.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm super excited to see how it kind of grows. I mean, the series. I've got a little boy who's 3, so he's not quite school age yet, but he's got a copy of Vivi the Supervegan. We read it regularly, and so just to seeing how the series develops. And I'm so excited to think that one day he might be at a school where he can continue his journey with Vivi. And the whole series, and get so much more than he's got out of it already, which is already tons. So it's just a super exciting project.
Yay! Thank you. It's the children. It's just I just imagine my daughter being 7 now, going into school, and the teacher just pulling out Vivi and them working on it, and the children just not really thinking anything of it initially, but just following the lead of the teacher. I mean, that's what we all want, for it to be the norm. I mean, when you see what's happening in the restaurant world at the moment, when I went vegan, I had to open my own restaurant because there was nothing, and now it's just second nature for my daughter to say, do you have a vegan menu? So I'm really hoping that as more people become vegan, books like this and work like this is just integrated more and more and more into the curriculum. And then we take over the world.
Let's hope so. I'd talking of taking over the world, I'd love to bring in Tina at this point, if that's okay. Hey, Tina, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Hi, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank Thank you to you as well for asking me to come along to this. I'm super excited to be here. So it's been an absolute delight to be part of this in any small way I can. So huge thank you. I'd love to just before we get into, because I know you wanted to touch upon the animal justice project piece and the crowdfunder that helped to make this happen. But before we do, I'd just love to hear from your perspective the journey into this piece of work. Because obviously an author. We've spoken about this in the podcast episode we did a while back, and your kind of inspiration into becoming an author, etc. Did you kind of ever envisage that this was the way that this was going to go? And how did you feel when Laura sort of came to you with this proposal?
Well, when I first wrote the books, I think in the back of my head, I was thinking, oh, how cool would it be if I could get them into the school system? Because, everybody in the UK, and I'm sure Marissa will agree, in the US, like, it's so unbalanced, and that, resources, just they're not vegan friendly at all in schools. And it's very one-sided. And I think, when I was writing my first book, Vivi The Supervegan, my main goal was to give children, a character that they could relate to, characters that empower their lifestyle and, reaffirm the way they're living. But I did have in the back of my mind, I was thinking, how could I get these into schools? Because obviously my children were about probably they were 1 and 3 when we went vegan. So it's a little bit further on, but I was seeing the kind of books that they were talking about at school and the books that they were coming home with. And they're very kind of geared towards exploitation of animals, whether it's farms or zoos, the nursery rhymes, everything that they were doing. I was just thinking, no, this has got to change. But I didn't dream of getting them into schools. I wouldn't have even known how to go about it. So when Laura got in touch and told me what she was doing, I mean, she was incredible. She came to the book launch all the way. We're not around the corner. She's just an incredible lady. I feel very blessed to have met her and for her to be in our life. And then, we just clicked, and we're 2 mums on a mission here. So when she suddenly got in contact and said what she was doing with this resource pack, I was completely blown away. And obviously that then led on when I met Nigel, who very sadly can't come tonight, but with Animal Justice Project. So it's kind of all led on. It's been an amazing journey, really.
Absolutely. I'm really interested, because I know you've been on a bit of a mission with some other local mums in the area. Yeah. Forgive me for getting the name wrong. It was the Vegan Mamas, if I remember back to our episode some time ago. Yeah. I'd imagine you've probably run this kind of idea past them at some point. What was their view of it? I imagine they were super excited.
Yeah, I mean, they're so supportive, and they're so they're all like super mums themselves, like running vegan businesses and vegan and cruelty-free salons, and just they're doing their own things. They're all so inspiring, but we've all got kids of a similar age. So when I spoke to them about this, they were like, wow, this would be incredible. Like, definitely do it, like get it into schools. But I don't think any of them would know how to start. So they've kind of been, going with me along the way. But they're super excited.
I bet. I feel that too. Absolutely. It'd be good to come on to the Animal Justice Project and the involvement there. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that, how that came about, their involvement, etc.
So Nigel is a volunteer for Animal Justice Project, and he reached out to me, I think it was in 2019, and asked if I would become an ambassador for them. And obviously I said yes. I'm so behind the work they're doing, exposing animal suffering in many different industries. And then Nigel, he is an incredible man. It's a real shame he can't be on tonight, because he volunteers so much of his time for Animal Justice Project, but he also, he fosters children and animals, and he's got his own job. He's such an incredible person, but he got it in his head. He's also a father, so he was passionate about getting the books into the school system. And he'd done something similar with some environmentally friendly children's books. And I think he'd run a crowdfunder for these books as well. And he got in touch with me and said, how about we try it with Vivi, not knowing how, the kind of response we would get, because mine are, it's very easy. Everyone's very happy to talk about plastic and the environment, and it's less, I don't know, it doesn't seem to annoy people, provoke such a reaction. The minute you mention the word veganism, everyone's like, oh, and schools don't want to know. So he was like, he wasn't put off by it, and he said, let's go for it. So originally, when they put the crowdfunder together, their goal was to raise £750, and that would give, I think it was about 100 books to schools and nurseries across the UK. And within 24 hours, we'd completely smashed the goal, and we are at like £1,500. And by the end of the crowdfunder, we'd raised £2,000, which enables us to gift 268 books to nurseries and schools across the UK. And so I sent out the first 200, and I think Nigel has already sent 150 out. They're calling schools beforehand to let them know and to find out. And I think he's had one school put the phone down. He's had quite a few schools say, can we find out more? Can you email us with information? But the majority of schools have just said, yes, this sounds great. And in the email that he sends on to them, he explains about Laura's resource pack. And it all ties in, because, the whole point of the resource pack is that they use the book, and the whole point of the book in schools is that they use the resource pack. So they go hand in hand. So if the school's got one, they need the other, and then hopefully that will then lead on to the second book and Laura's next resource. And I'm cracking the whip for her, because she's got to keep bringing out these resource packs, and she's doing the same because I've got to keep writing books. So together, we're a good team.
That's just incredible. What an amazing story. And I love the fact that there's was it only one putting the phone down? I'd take that out of that many people. That's incredible. And the vast majority wanting to know more. I know I've got a copy myself off the back of that crowdfunder, and I'm waiting for my nursery to reopen, my little boy's nursery to reopen after he's been self-isolating, and we're marching down there with the with our copy in hand. So I can't wait. There was also some wonderful cookies, if I remember rightly, which was a great deal sweetener for me. Absolutely.
That's a shout out to the vegan cake baker of North Manchester.
They were truly wonderful.
Yeah.
Give a little extra plug.
She's good.
Not many of the rest of the household got a look in there, I must say. But no, thank you so much, Tina. It's been great chatting in that brief period. I definitely want to have a full-scale podcast with you both after this, and it'd be good to explore a bit deeper. But we're going to move on, if that's okay. I think we've got Mark with us, aka the Vegan Mooncat. I'm excited to be joined. Hey, Mark, you with us?
Yeah, hey, okay. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you very well. Look at that glorious background as well. I recognise it well.
Yeah, I did put little lights on it, though, because it's a bit of a celebration. So normally they're not there. So I thought, yes, have some little lights on there. Make it a party. Come on.
A nice touch. We've not spoken before on the podcast. I'm sure we will soon. But for folks who don't know, it'd be good to hear a little bit about yourself, Mark, if that's all right.
Well, it's almost my favourite subject. No, kidding. So, yeah, my name's Mark, also known as the Vegan Mooncat. I have been vegan just over 4 years now. Before that, I was pretty ill health person. I weighed 34 stone, so very big, and I'd struggled with weight most of my life. And yeah, it had been an absolute nightmare. I didn't even know what veganism was until 4 years ago, to be quite honest. And it got to a point where I'd had another cardiac event, and the doctor said, you'll be dead in 6 to 12 months. You'll have another event. Sorry, I don't want to ruin the party for this.
No, not at all.
Like you said, you'll be dead within 6 to 12 months. You're in a terrible state. Any more events, your body's just not going to cope with it, and you'll be gone. And I've got 4 children, and I don't know, it's even when you've got 4 children, you've got people depending on you, sometimes it's still very hard to change the habits of a lifetime. But I wanted to, and initially I just wanted to get better, be around for the children, and I wanted to find a healthy way of living which would be sustainable and allow me to do that. And that's when I went vegan. Well, at the time I called it plant-based because it wasn't an ethical decision at that point. But and I lost a lot of weight, lost 14 stone, reversed every single illness I had, which was diabetes, sleep apnea, venous insufficiency, heart arrhythmias. The list just went on and on and on. And I reversed all that. And then obviously you start looking into ethics. When you're not part of the system anymore, it's easier to allow the truth into your brain and take it in and realize who's suffering for our choices. So at that point, I went ethical vegan as well. So, and then I started looking around, and I thought, I'm married. I've got children. I've seen, what happens to all the animals, and I've also seen what it did to my own health, and do I want that for my kids in the future? Do I want them to get to in the 40s like I did, with multiple health conditions through eating, eating animals and what comes out of animals? And at that time as well, and if they made the connection at some point in their lives, that eating animals and things that come out of animals is a terrible thing to do ethically as well, they're going to look at me like, it's like, what were you doing? Why didn't you tell us? It was your job, man. Come on. But I didn't do that, which is not really a great thing. But when you're not living that life yourself, you don't really talk to your children about it. So, and then I think I decided, I went into it with my children. I told them the truth. There's no point in hiding it from them. Kids are very accepting of the truth. Obviously, I'm not saying sit down and make them watch Earthlings or Dominion when they're 3 years old. Some people may say that, but it's probably not the best thing. And I think that what we're doing here and this kind of initiative is definitely the way forward. But for children of this sort of age group. And I talked to my children about it, told them. They saw obviously from example that I was doing very well. I told them about the ethics side of it and everything else. And now all my children and my wife are vegan. They're very healthy. They're doing better than one of my sons, William, who has Asperger's. It was always had very, very difficulty, with certain types of food and textures and everything else. And as soon as he was always underweight, and as soon as he became vegan, he made the ethical connection straight away as soon as I started talking about it, and he didn't see any choice, and he had to get over these sort of like texture and food issues that he was experiencing, because he wanted to no longer harm animals, so he couldn't eat the things that he was used to. So he forced himself into eating things he wasn't normally used to, and changing and getting used to textures, and he went up to a normal weight range. So that was really, really good. Sorry, I will never show up, by the way. and I will speed it up. And then I decided I went into a vegan festival. I met Paul from Hench Herbivore.
Yeah.
And he was talking to me about my health and everything else. He said, he said, it's pretty inspirational what you've done for yourself and your family. You're going to be around for them for longer. You're no longer harming animals. Could you come on my channel and we'll do an interview? So I did one with him, and I was so nervous because I'd never done anything like this before, and I went on there, and at the end of the interview, he said, "You know what? You've done this, but you really should get yourself out there, be an advocate for the animals, be an advocate for, for humans being able to improve their own health by following an ethical and also following obviously the ethics as well. You should really do it." And they ended up opening, so you can blame Paul, from Herbivore. So that's why I opened my YouTube channel. I opened like other social media accounts, and it was basically to show people that no matter how far sort of gone you are with your health, you can improve it, and also at the same time make an ethical choice to make sure that you can save countless animals' lives and be around, obviously, for your own children for longer, and let them be around for longer by improving their health, which is what all we want to do as a parent, is to make sure our kids are okay.
What an incredible story, Mark. Thank you so much for sharing. It's
sorry, your ears might fall off now.
No, not at all, not at all. And more power to you and the family.
Thanks very much.
I'm just thinking about, as a dad, kids in the I imagine in the UK sort of education system. What does this kind of resource being available to teachers, Vivi the Supervegan being available to children as they grow up, what does that kind of resource sort of mean for you? How's it making you feel?
I think number one, I class Vivi the Supervegan as, for me, it's my book. The kids shouldn't be touching it. No kidding. But it makes a big difference. I mean, my kids are of an older age now. My youngest is 11, my oldest is 19. So they're no longer this sort of age group. But I think because in schools, and they're all in secondary schools now, there's such little knowledge about veganism, or some people think it's just a diet, so they don't understand. They don't understand why there's such a strong reaction from a vegan, a child who's an ethical vegan. So they just, for instance, somebody threw a piece of ham at my son when he was at secondary school because they knew he was a vegan, and the teacher's response was, "Oh, get over it. It's just a piece of ham." But they're looking at it, they're not looking at it from his point of view, which is obviously it's a sentient animal that's been killed against its will, and so they're not looking at it from that point of view. That they don't want to discuss it or anything else. I mean, they told him to get over it when he wouldn't take part in Vivisection, and to just go do it. Now, this is in secondary school, but if teachers and there's a lot of harassment from other kids, or there definitely was initially. If teachers and adults and children are taught at key stage 1 sort of age groups, what veganism is and why people do it, and they have positive sort of books to read like Vivi, then when they get to secondary school and they're in and they come across a vegan child, they're going to understand more about that child. They might be vegan themselves, obviously, but even if they're not, they'll have an understanding of what veganism is and why people do it, and that it's not something to be mocked or to belittle the person for. So it's changing the hearts and the minds of the kids when they're very, very young. So as they grow up, it'll just make everyone's lives a lot easier and promote veganism. And obviously that saves more animals, which is great. Because my kids have struggled a lot in school. My youngest daughter, she's very loud. I mean, when they were picking on her and telling her that there was nothing to eat in the canteen, she got up on the table in the middle of the canteen and started shouting, "Do you know that you're eating a dead pig? And this is unacceptable. Where's my vegan sausages?" So she takes no prisoners, really, and she's hilarious. But it'd be nice if there was obviously a lot more understanding, and to give that people understanding as early as possible, so they can make an ethical choice themselves, obviously, but also so the adults and the teachers who are in charge of our children know that when we send them to school, that it's not just a whim. They've not just decided that they're not going to eat, drink that milk. There's a reasoning behind it, and they need to understand that reasoning, and they either don't know it or they just don't want to know it. So, and until there's a drive and an initiative like this to sort of put it into schools, and it's got widespread adoption, there's no reason to really even think about it unless they're in that sort of lifestyle themselves. And if your child had an allergy, they'd have to listen. If your child had some kind of special requirement for anything, they need to take it seriously in a school. But veganism right now, it's misunderstood or not known. They don't know anything about it, and there's no impotence to sort of like to change that. So we need to make them change. in a nice way.
You're absolutely right, Mark. And hearing the story of your children who are a bit older in secondary education does you're absolutely right. I think that this foundational level of education, right from square one, key stage one, it is so crucial that we start helping people understand what veganism is, how to be more inclusive, what the issues that we're talking about are, how a child might feel differently to the rest of the children in the classroom. Because like you say, there are so many other areas of life where we've crossed that frontier, and we've helped those children to be included and to feel part of the group. And veganism just isn't one of those yet. So
no, it's nowhere near at the moment. It will be.
Absolutely. Well, I've got no doubt with Laura and Tina doing the work that they'll
sort it out.
Be. Yeah. They'll sort it out. We've definitely got to crowdfund them.
Yeah, 100%.
At the very least.
Yeah. So getting the million really makes a difference, not only to those children's lives, but as I say, even if those children aren't vegan, there'll be a lot more understanding, tolerant, and or whatever of other vegans that may be in primary with them, or as their lives go on. And you won't get so many people, hopefully if they're educated early on, when they're older, they won't just turn around to a vegan and go, bacon though, or some other useless comment, because they'll understand that it's why they are doing what they're doing.
100%. So Mark, thank you so much again for sharing such a
no worries. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Story. It's been awesome chatting with you, and we'll definitely catch up again soon. Love to have you on the podcast. But
awesome.
Thank you so much for sharing. Super. Well, we're gonna move on now, and I'd love to bring in. I'm delighted to say Marissa from Veducated. Marissa, you with us? Little virtual round of applause.
I am. Can you hear me?
I can indeed. How are you?
I'm good. I have to give a little disclaimer here. I've got my dad here. He drove 23 hours from Indiana to New York State, and he just arrived yesterday, and he's having trouble with the kids. It's 3:40 here, so mine are not in bed. Mine are very much with us, so I hope they don't barge in. But I am so honored to be in company with you all. You all are rock stars. I remember when I read Vivi the first time, I was like, this is the book, this is the one, and then obviously Planet Protector 2, I was like, why haven't we had a story? Like you were saying, Laura, I love the educational books, but kids want to identify with a character and go on a journey, and that's one reason why I made Veducated follow people's journeys. It wasn't just, this information, that information. It was like, okay, let's go on a little journey here. So I love the humor in Vivi. Yay. I love the humor in Vivi. I love the sense that vegan kids can have that they have superpowers and that they're special. It's just, everybody wants to think of themselves as somehow special, and kids love superheroes. And I thought it was such a natural combo, and just to have it into schools is such a dream. I was asked to speak about the state of vegan education in the US. I said, well, that's easy because there is none. So I'll just get on, say that, and call it a day. But it's not as simple as that. I mean, in the US, I'm not sure how it is in the UK. I should have a British husband, so I should know, but it's very much state by state what is required, in schools. It is very standardized test focused. So anything that's sort of outside of the curriculum around standardized testing, that's mostly public schools, which are is that different in the UK, US? Public schools are the free schools for everybody. So it's different between private and public. But right now, there really isn't any formal education on vegan living or anything. There is in New York State a requirement that children are supposed to be taught humane education, which is, do you have that term there, humane education? Yeah, so it's just sort of an umbrella term for teaching about sustainability, human rights, animal protection, that sort of a thing. And, Zoe Weil is the godmother of that movement. She's founded the Institute of humane education. Yay. And I've been a humane ed volunteer. I worked in children's publishing. That's another reason why I love this movement that you all are doing right now. I worked for HarperCollins Children's Books as an editor. And then I became vegan and animal rights activist. And before I made Veducated, I was a volunteer humane educator in the schools. And I really would have loved to have that book then. I mean, that was in, 2003. But I mean, the things that we would run up against in the public schools would be, the children saying that they're interested, right? Then they come home, they tell their parents, oh, I want to go vegan. The parents say, what? And then they call the teacher calls the principal, blah, 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 blah. So without, if you have some sort of outside group coming in to teach, there's a little bit more of a threat of that happening, as opposed to, the dream, which is we had 2 years ago. My son had a vegan kindergarten teacher. So everything that he taught was kind of, all the birthday parties were vegan. They made the cakes in class. I mean, it was just so dreamy. That would, that's really the dream, is that teachers know this stuff already. If they're not already vegan themselves, they know it. They know the resources, they know the books, just like, Richard Emilius did. So I'm really thrilled that you all are doing it. I took a glance at your curriculum, and I was blown away. I mean, you've done so much work. I don't know how you've done it, especially with your mom situation. I mean, your baby situation right now. I don't know how you've done it, but it's incredible. It's inspiring, and I'm just really impressed and proud to be in company with you all.
Marissa, thank you so much. What a wonderful insight into the education system over there. I do have one sort of one follow-up, if that's all right. One question. Is there, in your experience, any vaguely similar kind of resource that you've seen, an attempt at deploying something like it in the States at all? Or does this feel like a real unique one-off right now?
So the humane educators, what they're taught to do is build curriculum around resources. So it really depends on your educator. They're going to, they might use Ruby Roth in this way or that way. That's what we've had until now. But there is, I know of no campaign in which a children's book and an educator have worked together and then launched something like this. I don't know, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I'm just not in the loop on it. I mean, mostly what I've heard about is more about just vegan options in the schools. That's obviously Laura's working on that. We're all working on that. But I volunteered with the Coalition for Healthy School Foods in New York, and they were able to build a vegetarian menu for schools, and there are now 4 schools in New York City that have all vegetarian cafeterias. And we have public schools, by the way. We also have, as our new incoming mayor, plant-based. Well, he's not an ethical vegan, but he's vegan anyway, Eric Adams. And I've met him a few times. The first time I saw him, we were both speaking in support of a resolution that would ban processed meats in all public places. So that's prisons, schools, any municipal body would ban processed meats for climate change, health, all the reasons. And he was a firebrand, and he just blew me away. And then he wrote this book, Healthy at Last. So it's all about his vegan journey, reversing his diabetes. He was going blind. He was losing feeling in his foot. So he regained his health through a vegan diet, and he is going to be our next mayor. And because of him and Bill de Blasio, our current mayor, who has a vegan daughter, they decided to, launch this Meatless Mondays campaign. And Eric Adams, who's the Brooklyn Borough president currently, he decided to test it out in Brooklyn. So there were, I think, 15 schools that he tried it out on, because, this is federally funded stuff, and they get reimbursed from the federal government. The schools get reimbursed from the federal government, based on uptake of the meals. So the kids have to like the food, and they've done incredibly well. Okay, Emmy, I'm on a call. Okay, my love. So the Meatless Mondays menus have been very, very, very successful, and because of that success, They roll them out in greater New York City. So that's 1,800 schools who have a Meatless Monday.
Wow.
So yeah, so we definitely are seeing progress there in terms of vegan options. The coalition was able to pass legislation to require all schools to serve hummus as an entree, as hummus sandwich, or hummus as a protein. So there are these little grassroots groups, state by state. I know Lean Green Schools. I'm sure, Laura, you know some. But so there are all these different little groups that are doing it kind of piecemeal and patchwork in terms of the vegan options. There's even some, Laura, I'm sure you know about it because you're doing similar stuff. Pending legislation around, well, this is kind of secretive, but I don't think there's no presses here, right? So it's basically saying, okay, why are we not allowed to have vegan options in all the schools, like vegan dairy? Why can we not protest dairy or even educate around dairy? It's because the dairy industry, they passed a rule or a law or something saying you cannot disparage the dairy industry in schools. You can't even criticize it. So how can we bring in a Vivi, type story about dairy without getting sued? You can't yet. So Animal Outlook is one of the groups that's trying to do that and create change around that. So man, we have our work cut out for us, but every little piece pushes the peanut forward. This resources your books, and it's fantastic.
Definitely some green shoots, but like you say, a long way to go. But I'm definitely going to take it as read from what you've said there, Marissa, that this is a world's first. I think if you don't know about any other example, then I think we'll claim it as the world's first.
That's legit. I think that's legit.
Yeah, I think we can put that official approval.
I'm absolutely fine with that. That's good.
I think we're going to get that added to the front of the pack. Definitely. Super stuff. Listen, Marissa, thank you so much for your time. You've got an incredibly busy house by the sound of things. Sorry. Not at all. It's real life. I absolutely love it. I've got a sleeping 3-year-old upstairs who is currently still sleeping, so we could get disturbed at any point. But thank you so much. Excellent. Well, I think we're going to try and engineer a bit of a giveaway tonight as well, which is exciting. How many packs is it, Laura, that we've got to give away? Is it 3? Did you say?
Yes. So the authors of the group, myself, Tina, and Marissa, have very kindly said that we'd send a book to anyone who, I don't know, I think you were going to run some kind of question competition throughout Q&A. Is that right?
Well, I thought about doing something like that, but I thought what we might do is a first to get something typed into the chat throughout the Q&A.
That's a good one.
How about that?
Because I never got to do a book launch because my book was officially released. For those of you who don't know, I happen to have it here, An Educator's Guide for Vegan Inclusive Teaching. It came out, I got my first hard copies in the December before we had to go into lockdown in the kind of February, March. So I'm taking this as my book launch as well as the pack launch. So I'm happy to give that and the pack away.
Super.
I'm not sure which book Tina's going to offer. Don't want to speak for her.
No, I'm very happy to offer both of my books. Ta-da! I think in my glowing room, I don't know if you'll be able to see them, but
there we go.
There we go.
So are we going to do one bumper pack? How about that? Excited. So we're going to
add, here's mine. So I'll be giving this away, and for international shipping, that's just fine.
Oh my goodness, what an absolute treat. So I'm going to say the first person in chat throughout Q&A to type in "I want to be veducated." I don't mind how you spell it. The first person to type that into chat will be the proud recipient of those wonderful goods. Look at that. Is that somebody's in there already? My word, Ruth, that is rapid typing. Incredible work. That's worthy of a reaction emoji from me. Incredible stuff. Well, congratulations, Ruth. I don't know if you don't feel you have to, but if you wanted to come and do an acceptance speech, I'm more than happy to.
I'm delighted. Thanks. I feel very cheeky. I'm sorry, everyone else who I'm sure was typing really, really fast in the background. But I would love to get those books into my son's school with, Laura's amazing resource. That would just be amazing. And Marissa, thank you very much. Like on the international side, like if they can do some vegan cooking, that would be spectacular. So thank you.
Congratulations, Ruth. I'm still baffled how you typed that fast. It's like you read my mind. I'd literally only just come up with the question. Amazing. Well done. We will work on getting those sent out to you afterwards.
Thank you.
Ruth as well, I have to just interject there. Ruth as well is doing some awesome work in schools as well as part of the Vegan Inclusive Education program. So she's been working and sending in free resources here, there and everywhere up and down the country. We've been working really closely and I'm a huge supporter of her work as well. So I'm really pleased that she won because she's an absolute hero as well. So good on you, Ruth. And you're very welcome here. And we're so glad you could join us. Thanks for tuning in and whatnot. And I'll speak to you soon.
Wonderful stuff. Thank you, Ruth. Well done. Super typing. Very impressed. Great work. So we've got a few minutes left, and it would be remiss of us not to, whilst we've got such wonderful folks with us in Laura and Tina, to put them on the spot and ask any questions. So I don't know if anybody wants to either type one in or feel free to jump off mute and ask any questions. Feel free. I can always edit out the pauses, so don't worry whilst you think of one. It's all good.
I can't stand pauses. I've got to speak. I don't even want to ask a question. It's just too quiet.
You be comfortable in the silence, Mark.
I can't. It's so difficult. It's so difficult. I did want to ask Tina, has she got any new books with Vivi coming out soon?
I wish I'd come up with that question. That's a fantastic one. Advanced knowledge. Go on, Tina.
Exactly.
I do, Mark, and it should be out later this year. Yeah, unfortunately, my creativity has been somewhat stifled with lockdown and homeschooling and everything. So if I'd have been on the same timescale as the last two books, it would have been with the illustrator by now, but it is still set for the end of this year.
That's amazing. Have you ever thought maybe of a book about Vivi the Supervegan and the Vegan Mooncat? It's just a question, you can see the little guy back there. He's up for it.
I would definitely add it to my spider diagram.
Yes.
Trust you, eh?
Yeah, always causing trouble. It's quiet again.
I was going to say, it's going to make you really uncomfortable, isn't it?
I want to ask a question. I'm so excited about this resource. I was wondering if we could put a link to however schools can get hold of it, Laura, on the Vegan Inclusive Education website. And yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. We're going to plaster it everywhere. With this launch party, this I love party. Woo! Zoom parties are so this kind of launch party was the start of us just kind of talking about it in the public domain and getting people to hear about it for the first time. And so, yeah, after this event, we're going to hopefully do some nice Canva posters and get it out there, and it'll be able to direct people. But I'd love to put it on your website. Absolutely, 100%. It's just a little Dropbox link that's really easy and user-friendly for teachers. So yeah, with pleasure. You'll be hearing from us in the next day or so when it's plastered across social media. Thank you.
I wanted to jump in there quickly because I don't think people were aware that this isn't actually live at the moment, is it? Your resource pack I added to my site, And I'm not kidding, that very night, we hadn't even advertised, we haven't told anybody about this. Someone in Australia ordered it. And I text Laura like, oh my gosh, like it's not even public. It's not even meant to be live yet. I was like, how do I send it to them? And then the second person was a teacher that we know, but then I had to take it off because I thought, wow, these are gonna sell. So I want people to realize that people don't know about this yet. So if that's successful already, it's going to be amazing.
Hopefully so. Oh, I've just noticed there's a question in the chat, Jim.
We have indeed got a question from Kelly. I'm happy to read out for you both. So a question from Kelly. Thank you so much for the question, Kelly. How do you think the book and pack work alongside vegan food options in schools? With many of the schools offering little to no vegan options, would they be reluctant to teach Vivi and then the kids go and eat the animals at lunch? Hopefully it will help them to rethink the lunch option. So yeah, how do these things kind of go hand in hand in your experience, or what you'd like to see here?
So it's difficult because they're two separate things, because there's the food that they have, and that's one battle with kind of food services providers and head teachers and councils, and that's kind of one whole big issue. And then you've got the curriculum, which is, are they teaching a humane education? Are they talking about, aspects of veganism? And at the moment, there is really nothing that's bridging them together. I feel as though when I do my day's work, that they are completely separate issues. So I suppose just talking about veganism with the children in class would get them to just start thinking, really. And as their cogs are turning through year 1, then year 2, and by the time they're 9 and 10, when the 4th book has come out, Tina's just had a heart attack, but it's coming, you better do that 4th, then they'll probably be at a point where the school system may have caught up, in which case, if there is a vegan option, they will choose it. At the moment, if the cogs are turning and there is no vegan option for them to choose, then it's probably really unfortunately sad that those cogs will probably just fall to, until they get the next reminder. I suppose children are naturally empathetic, so it's going to happen eventually if we just keep putting it in front of them and offering them and showing them in every which way that we can that, animals are not here to be eaten. They're here with us, not for us. And so yeah, I think that Tina and I together, and along with Ruth and Dana, Marissa, all of you, in fact, you're all amazing people, doing brilliant things. The more we just do what we're doing, then eventually that bridge will come where, they're learning about veganism and humane education in class, and they can eat vegan and plant-based options in the canteen, and it's normal. So that's what we're all working towards. So I can't wait for that time. I often say I can't wait until my job doesn't exist anymore. And I've just had another baby. So she's, I've got another 10 or 15 years in the schooling system at least to perfect and refine this, and I shall. So I hope that answers your question. But we've all still got a lot of work to do, as Mark mentioned before, but we'll get there. Hopefully. In fact, we will. There's no hope about it. We will.
Love that. There's definitely no hope about it. Absolutely.
No hope about it.
So a couple more questions in the chat. We've got one from Marissa. I was just wondering if there is a similar movement in Australia by Australian authors or activists. I don't know if either of you know the answer to that. I hope not, in a way, because of our world's first claim. But I do really hope there is. Well, there's one everywhere. But any insight into that?
I know an author, I think it's either Bryony or Byrony. I never knew how to pronounce it. Is it Bryony? And she's written a book called something, it's been such a long time since I read it, but it's called something like I Don't Eat Animals, or I Don't Like to Eat Animals. Marissa's nodding, so I'm going to go with that. And there's also another brilliant lady who's got a website called My Vegan Child. And her name escapes me. So yes, there are people out there, and I've shipped my book to Australia for 3 or 4 people so far. So I'd like to think that it's growing, and definitely look those people up and follow them. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of things in pipelines with regards to global networking for humane educators, and it's all gonna go off this year. So I would really love to have some form of network of global humane and vegan educators. So it's coming, because as my mum, who's on the call, will agree with, if something pops in my head and I want to get it done, it gets done. So yeah, absolutely.
And then I think probably our final question for this evening, we've got one from Dana. Will the pack be available for home educated children?
Absolutely.
Great question.
Yes, it's available to purchase on Tina's website and on my website. So yeah, basically anyone can purchase it. And because it covers all of the key skills and lesson objectives of year one, then you know that if you're home educating, that you're covering it all. So absolutely, 100%. It's for a global audience as well. I mean, the learning objectives in England start with, I am able to do this, or I'm able to do that, but it can easily be tweaked to, something, Marissa probably be, able to use it in America, but just change the language ever so slightly. And some of the spelling, you'll have Zs where we have S's and things like that. So yeah, I mean, the more the merrier. Hopefully the whole world will see it and use it.
Super. Well, thank you so much. But before I do want to hand over to Laura and Tina to have the sort of final word this evening, because it's their launch. So I just wanted to let them sort of say their farewells and thank yous. But before I do that, just a huge thank you to everybody for joining today. And everybody listening in the future. Hello, future people. Hopefully by then, Laura and Tina have taken over the world and everything's good. So if you're listening to this and Laura no longer has a job, then she's done what she needed to do, and we're all happy. But a huge thank you to everyone for joining. Thank you to our guests, Marissa and Mark as well. It's been incredible to have you both with us, with busy households and all the rest of it. So thank you so much for your time. Well done to Ruth, the fastest typer in the West. Truly incredible. And time to hand over now for final words from Laura and Tina. Thank you so much.
Well, I'll let Tina have the final word. I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everybody. Please share the resource far and wide, and encourage any friends who are vegan parents or teachers to get it into the schools. It's been an absolute pleasure working with Tina, as always. She's an absolute superstar. I can't wait for all the rest of the books in the series. Thank you to Jim for hosting. Your dulcet tones always make everything much better. And congratulations to you, because the Bloody Vegans podcast is a year old this week. Oi, oi.
2 years, no doubt. 2 years.
Sorry, I do apologise. It was your birthday.
It is the birthday. I was going to say hour then, as if there's more than.
It is ours.
There's more than just me involved. It's just me doing it. So as if I've got this team. But yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
It's yours, but it feels like ours.
It is. It's the vegan communities. Hopefully, that's not too bold a statement.
Yeah. So happy birthday to you. And
thank you,
Tina.
I don't know why you're giving me the last word, because this is all about you and your amazing work. You're incredible. I think this lady is way too modest and humble. She is an absolute superhero, super vegan. So thank you, Laura, for what you've done with this resource pack. It's amazing. I promise you I will get finished with my 3rd book and get working on my 4th book for you. And thank you to everyone for coming tonight, and a wonderful guest. I think we all really know who would like to have the last word, Mr. Vegan Mooncat. But no, I really appreciate everybody's support, and Nigel, who can't be here, I'm so grateful for his support with both of us. We're both ambassadors for Animal Justice Project, and they do such incredible work for the animals. And at the end of the day, this is all about the animals for us and about the children. And yeah, we just we're not gonna quit until we get this into the schools and bring about balance. So we appreciate all of you journeying with us.
Thank you, folks. Have a great evening. We'll see you all next time.